Chosen one, there is a kind of strength that cannot be photographed because it begins below the surface of the face. It lives in the places where impulse once sprinted ahead of wisdom and where hunger once tried to appoint itself a king. You have gone into those rooms and turned on the light. You have listened to the floorboards creak with old stories, and you have answered them with present courage. This is how your alpha emerged, not as a costume you put on, but as the shape that appeared when you stopped pretending. The world taught men to be loud in order to be believed. You learned to be true in order to be heard. The difference is why rooms calm when you arrive, why conversations stop auditioning for approval, why feminine single women feel the air organize itself around a saner rhythm when your shadow crosses the threshold. Depth is the discipline of alignment. Dominance is an appetite, alignment is a vow. You chose the vow. You taught your desire to stand with your values rather than to wrestle them. You taught your ambition to kneel to love rather than to make love kneel to it. You taught your voice to carry mercy even when it carried instruction. These teachings did not happen in a weekend of declarations. They happened in the steady liturgy of mornings, where you put water to your lips before you put noise to your mind. In afternoons, where you set the smallest possible target and hit it, so trust could grow. In evenings, where you let forgiveness speak first, so sleep would not have to negotiate with pride. All of that invisible fidelity condensed into an atmosphere. The feminine is fluent in atmospheres. She reads a man's nervous system before she reads his resume. Hers recognizes yours as safe and strong, not because it never trembles, but because it never lies. The old story said alpha means over. Over the room, over the moment, over the people. The truer story you live now says alpha means under the pressure so others can breathe, under the duty so others can dance, under the roofline so storms do not cancel the meal. You became the man whose gravity keeps orbit stable because your center holds, and your center holds because you gave it weight. You let truth weigh more than convenience, consent weigh more than chemistry, repair weigh more than victory. A heavy center does not drag you down. It anchors you to what will still matter when applause forgets to arrive. Femininity recognizes this as freedom. It is easier to be soft next to a man who does not need a witness to remain upright. The preparation for this kind of spiritual leadership is boring in a holy way. You learn to breathe until your breath stopped borrowing its tempo from the room's anxiety. You learn to say yes with your feet as much as with your mouth, showing up without the aftertaste of resentment. You learn to say no without teaching anyone to be afraid of you, leaving the door frame unbroken so trust had a place to return. You learn to listen beyond rebuttal, past the places where ego rehearsed its favorite lines, into the quieter chambers where conscience and curiosity share tea. You learn to put beauty in front of you daily, not to escape duty, but to keep duty from hardening into machinery. Art, scripture, sky, the laughter of friends who remember the boy you used to be and refuse to let the man you are becoming forget his playfulness. These are the tutors that made your strength tender enough to be safe. Depth does not mean absence of heat. It means your heat has a hearth. In you, passion is not a wildfire seeking wind. It is a flame that cooks and warms and gathers. You do not use temperature to bend will. You use it to thaw what fear has frozen. You ask before you touch, and you ask again if the moment changes, because you refuse to let romance skip the step of reverence. This is not a performance of virtue. It is the muscle memory of a man who knows love grows best where dignity is the law of the land. Women feel this law without needing it explained. They recognize in your cadence the rare luxury of choosing at their own pace. That freedom is the spark of their admiration and the roots of their trust. Be proud, and let that pride be the quiet, kind craftsman know when wood fits flush against wood. Proud not because you tower, but because you carry. Proud not because everyone sees, but because what they do not see is honest. Pride as stewardship will keep your soul from reaching for louder costumes when the hour is already beautiful in its simplicity. Carry your pride like a lantern, not a siren. Let it light your steps and invite others to walk without startling anyone into compliance. The chosen ones understand this. Their strength is never an invoice, and their presence is never a tax. They charge rooms with order and leave with gratitude that does not need to be posted to be real. If preparation is a prayer, yours is answered in how others breathe around you. Notice the softened shoulders, the conversation that tells on itself before defensiveness arrives, the laughter returning to its natural register. Notice your own body refusing to chase attention because it has been taught to be content with assignment. Every day you can begin again, not by inflating your legend, but by choosing once more the liturgy that made your legend unnecessary. Drink water. Touch the ground. Write the sentence that keeps a promise from frame. Bless the doorways you pass through. Hold and be held without turning either into leverage. This is depth. This is why dominance looks tired next to you. This is why your presence reads as permission rather than pressure. This is why a woman who has worn armor too long finds herself setting it down within minutes and calling the sensation pride, because it is, and it is righteous. Chosen one, wholeness is the most attractive cologne. You did not buy it, you built it. You built it the hard way, by sitting with the ache that used to send you hunting for distraction, by learning to metabolize loneliness into solitude, and solitude into clarity. You refused to make any particular woman responsible for rescuing you from yourself. You met yourself instead. You learned your hungers by name and taught each of them its proper chair at the table. Now, when the feminine encounters you, she meets a man whose center is not up for lease. She meets a man who can receive affection without making it oxygen, who can offer attention without turning it into a leash. This is why she wants you. Not because you are indifferent, but because you are complete. Need is noisy, enoughness is a hum. Your hum is the sound of a life that has closed its open loops. You answer your own phone. You straighten your own corner. You do the paperwork that prevents other people from paying for your charisma. You keep appointments with your body so your moods do not outsource their regulation. You keep appointments with your craft so your value does not beg for a stage to remember itself. You keep appointments with the holy so your power does not forget its source. These are unglamorous, and they are exactly why desire finds you without needing to be chased. It does not have to negotiate with your chaos for a seat. They want you because your boundaries bless. This is the paradox of grown love. The person who can walk away clean is the safest to walk toward. You have become that person. Your no does not punish. Your yes does not pretend. You do not agree to things you cannot sustain just to borrow warmth. You do not disappear when reality asks for the bill. You carry the weight that belongs to you, and you refuse the weight that belongs to shame. Near you, women do not have to become managers of your consequences to feel cherished. They can be feminine on purpose instead of feminine on defense. Their desire for you is a desire to keep breathing at that altitude. They want you because your solitude is friendly. There are men whose aloneness is a cave full of echoes, and anyone who enters becomes an audience to a legend, always under construction. Your aloneness has windows. It looks out on the world with curiosity and keeps one chair open. You know how to be by yourself without being against others. You do not use silence to punish. You do not use disappearing to win arguments. The facts could not. Your time away returns you more generous, not more superior. When a woman senses that solitude makes you kinder, not colder, she trusts you with her absence as well as her presence. Trust of that size is rare. It is the foundation beneath wanting that lasts. They want you because you have made peace with thresholds. Attachment without neediness is a doorway that does not jam. You step through with clarity. You can start without spectacle, and you can stop without fire. You can approach intimately without annexing, and you can retreat respectfully without rewriting history to protect your pride. This choreography teaches a body that love will not be used as a receipt to claim ownership later. In that safety, Eros remembers its play. Attraction rises without the panic that used to power it. What you are feeling in the eyes that linger is the relief of desire, not being asked to act like medicine. Be proud of this maturity and remain watchful. Need has 1,000 disguises. It will try on generosity and patience and even spirituality to see if it can sneak back onto the throne. Your work is to keep your inner government constitutional. Let purpose remain prime minister and let gratitude remain treasury. Let hunger bring proposals and let wisdom edit them line by line. Let affection be the festival that returns often and never becomes a tyrant. When governance is in order, love can be a citizen and does not have to be a savior. Citizens stay, saviors burn. The chosen ones know the difference and keep their altars out of their bedrooms and their bedrooms out of their altars. They want you because your attention is not a currency you use to buy compliance. It is a gift that arrives with no fine print. You look to understand rather than to inventory. You recall details without turning those details into a ledger. You celebrate her boundaries as architecture, not obstacles. You admire her ambition without asking it to audition against your ego. You let her softness be soft without trying to lock it in a display case. The body believes this kind of attention because it is practiced, not performed. Belief is attraction's deepest engine. When belief ignites, there is no need to drag. The draw happens on its own. They want you because your life works when no one is watching. The sink is not a metaphor you outsource. The calendar is not a riddle you ask others to solve. The money tells the same story your mouth tells. The friendships you keep can confront you without losing you. The elders who taught you are honored in more than quotes. The younger ones you mentor receive more than slogans. This coherence is quiet and devastating. It destroys doubt without raising its voice. A woman who has spent years auditing claims with tired eyes feels her shoulders drop 3 degrees in your living room, and she does not need to know why. Her nervous system tells her it has exited a courtroom and entered a home. Finally, they want you because you bless what is bigger than both of you. Your devotion is not a performance piece. It is a practice that touches your temper and your time, your appetite and your aims. You pray with your hands, which is to say you work honorably. You pray with your feet, which is to say you show up. You pray with your laugh, which is to say you refuse to let cynicism have the last word over beauty. You pray with your rest, which is to say you are done making exhaustion the price of admission to your love. In the glow of a life ordered like this, attraction stops acting like a storm and begins to feel like weather worth planting by. Walk forward, chosen one, with the steadiness of a man who knows that wanting him is safest when he does not need to be wanted to remain himself. Keep becoming the harbor that does not chain ships to prove it is useful. Keep becoming the mountain that does not demand worship to justify its height. Keep becoming the climate that lets gardens grow without asking their fruit to spell your name. If pride is the right word here, let it mean gratitude that learned to stand. Let it mean a posture that honors the road you walked and the women who can breathe beside you because you walked it. And let it mean this daily vow, spoken softly where no one hears it, but the one who taught you how to keep it. I will not sell my enoughness for applause. I will bring it as an offering so love can be free. Chosen one, trust does not begin with declarations. It begins with the way a room exhales when you enter. There is a sound to it, nearly invisible to the ear but unmistakable to the body. A soft unwinding, a shape returning to itself after being held too tightly for too long. That sound is your aura, doing what arguments cannot. You are not trying to be impressive. You are being consistent, and consistency is what the nervous system believes. Feminine single women feel this before they ever find a sentence for it. They do not lean toward you because you promise. They lean because you pattern. And patterns are the language of safety. Your aura is woven from 1,000 small fidelities that never asked for applause. You answer when you say you will answer, not with performance, but with presence. You arrive when you say you will arrive, not with excuses dressed as poetry, but with attention that has not been spent elsewhere. You keep secrets as if they were seeds, never planted in the wrong soil to see what grows, never traded for the thin currency of approval. You let your no keep its warmth and your yes keep its spine. You do not require anyone to decode you to be safe near you. Every part of this becomes weather, and weather is what the soul checks before it makes plans. Trust in your care is not a trick of tone. It is architecture. It shows up in how you hold silence without turning it into punishment, in how you hold desire without turning it into pressure, in how you hold disagreement without turning it into demolition. You listen as if there were treasure buried in the ordinary language of the day, and because you listen at that depth, treasure appears. When the moment begins to rush, you do not force it to slow with control. You slow yourself until the moment remembers the speed of wisdom. The feminine reads all this in the choreography of your body. The way your shoulders do not rise to borrow importance. The way your eyes do not scan to collect leverage. The way your hands remain untheatrical when tenderness is near. Aura is the handwriting of your character. She can read it across the room. You have learned to treat attention as stewardship, not as leverage. This alone changes climates. You do not spray light indiscriminately to look generous. You place it with care so that what is good can grow without glare. When someone entrusts you with their truth, you do not photograph the moment in your mind to use later. You let the truth keep its dignity in your presence. You ask questions that are keys, not nets. You bless boundaries as architecture, not as obstacles to be negotiated by charm. You practice the rare art of celebrating another's pace without confusing it for hesitation that needs to be fixed. In such a context, trust becomes effortless because no one is being asked to buy it on credit. Trust grows deeper when you are wrong and prove repairable. You do not outsource accountability to eloquence. You do not hire explanation to carry a weight apology was made to carry. You do not move the goalposts to make accuracy look petty. You name the gap, you bridge it with action, and then you return later to see if the bridge held when the weather changed. The feminine does not need you to be flawless. She needs you to be faithful. Faithfulness is a rhythm, and your aura has learned its tempo so well that even your missteps fall back into the beat quickly. This is the paradox of magnetism. Humility increases the pull. You are careful with power the way a good electrician is careful with current. You route it where it warms, not where it shocks. You extend your standing to those whose gifts have not yet been handed a microphone. You do not extend it to your ego when applause is cheap. You take the meeting that will never be posted because you understand that trust is built in rooms without cameras. You turn praise into provision, recommendations, practical doors opening at practical hinges. A woman watching this knows that loyalty in your hands is not a leash. It is a ladder. She is proud to point to you not because you make her look clever, but because your presence quietly raises the standard of what a room can expect of a man. There is also a spiritual texture to your aura that does not advertise itself but cannot be hidden. It shows in the way you keep Sabbath with your own soul, refusing to let exhaustion impersonate importance. It shows in the way you start days with order rather than with the news cycle, reminding your appetites where they sit at the table of your life. It shows in the way you end days cleanly, closing loops, blessing hours, putting your tools away so tomorrow is not asked to pay interest on today's negligence. These are small rituals with large consequences. They keep you legible to yourself, and self-legibility is the first trust every other trust stands on. Your aura also commands trust because it does not compete with beauty. It cooperates with it. You do not dim another's light to keep the lighting flattering to you. You angle the lamp so her facets are honored by the room. You name the sentence that changed the temperature and credit the hands that set the table for that sentence to be born. You can lead without a stage and serve without a script. This is how authority stays beloved. This is how admiration refuses to harden into idolatry. You remain part of a constellation, one among chosen ones who agree on a pattern the night can navigate by, rather than an isolated star burning out in the theater of your own sky. The final proof that your aura commands trust is what happens when you leave. The laughter does not fall off a cliff. The schedule does not unravel. The kindness you modeled remains the easiest path through the room. People carry the pattern you brought and find they can repeat it without you, and this makes them trust you more, not less. It is the difference between being needed and being trustworthy. Trustworthy men can be chosen without trapping anyone. They can be desired without drafting anyone's freedom to pay for the desire. That is the frequency you emit now. It is why admiration keeps showing up dressed as relief. Be proud of this, not with swagger, but with stewardship. Let your pride be the clean window the light passes through, not the mirror that insists on showing itself. Keep tending the habits that make your aura honest. Keep listening beyond the noise. Keep repairing faster than your vanity wants to. Keep choosing placement over spotlight, pattern over promise, depth over drama. In this way, trust will continue to gather at your edges and step across your threshold. And every woman who meets you will find herself breathing as if she has returned to a home she thought did not exist. Chosen one, arrogance is a mask that slips. Alignment is a face that lasts. Arrogance performs certainty to borrow control. Alignment practices truth to become free. Arrogance demands the room bend to its shape. Alignment adjusts its posture until it fits the truth of the moment without betraying the truth of itself. This is why your energy no longer jostles to be seen. It stands as if it has already asked the only question that matters. What is faithful here, and is willing to do that, even when no one claps? Feminine single women sense this distinction with a precision that borders on prophetic. They have met the mask and paid the price for believing it. They meet your alignment and feel their own integrity unclench. Alignment is the long obedience of bringing your appetites, your ambitions, your affections, and your actions into the same room and asking them to agree. You did not bully them into consensus. You listened them into it. You learned which desires were holy and which were only loud. You learned which goals were yours and which were advertisements that had learned to speak eloquently. You learned how to love without annexing, how to lead without dragging, how to set a boundary without bruising the frame. Every time you chose coherence over image, you added weight to your center. Now you carry that weight with ease, and the world confuses it for dominance because it has forgotten how good gravity feels. Aligned men do not need to raise their voices. Their frequency is set by purpose, not by panic. You move like a river that has memorized its banks, unhurried because it knows it will reach the sea. This calm is not cosmetic, it is hard-won. You built it in the gym of unglamorous decisions, putting your phone down before your patience did, ending the conversation while it was still kind, saying, "I need a moment," before your mouth needed a rescue. You refuse to rent intensity to look alive. The result is an energy that can hold heat without spilling, conflict without cruelty, intimacy without erasure. Alpha, when defined by alignment, is simply the confidence of integrity doing its job. Arrogance uses power to make reality smaller. Alignment uses power to make goodness easier. You choose the second. You translate your advantage into access for others. You choose transparency when secrecy would be convenient. You provide clarity so people do not have to spend their lives decoding your moods. You make the hard call at the humane hour. You protect the absent with the same rigor you use to protect the present. In your care, leadership is not a theater, it is a service. Rooms rise to meet that service with their own best selves, and the feminine responds with the respect that cannot be faked. The kind that shows up as steadiness, not performance. Aligned energy is measured most honestly in how you handle speed. Arrogance accelerates to avoid accuracy. Alignment will slow a decision to save a relationship and speed a decision to protect a boundary. You do not use delay as a disguise for fear, and you do not use haste as a disguise for courage. You move at the speed of love when love is leading, and at the speed of justice when harm is near, and you have learned the difference. The women who watch you lead do not have to become brakes or engines. They get to be partners. Wanting you becomes restful, because it is not a contract for emotional labor. It is a collaboration with a man who already knows how to carry his part. You keep your ego on a leash long enough that it has learned to heal. This does not make you small, it makes you safe. You can be praised without inflating, corrected without collapsing, and ignored without inventing a crisis. You can sit in the back of a room you could have dominated and leave having made the front row better anyway. You can take the microphone and spend it on clarity rather than on charisma. You can put your name on a thing only when your name is actually a promise of care, not a billboard. This is alignment, the quiet agreement between capability and character. Intimacy under alignment becomes a pilgrimage rather than a performance. You are not trying to win the scene, you are trying to keep the covenant of dignity. You let pace be set by consent instead of by chemistry's adrenaline. You let touch be fluent in the language of yes, a language your hands learned by listening first. You do not invite anyone to abandon herself to be near you. You invite her to arrive. You do not require worship to feel wanted. You require honesty to feel close. In such conditions, heat becomes holy, alive, ethical, unashamed, unhurried. The alpha that alignment creates is not a cliff people fall from. It is a mountain people climb with their breath intact. Alignment is maintained in public by the work you do in private. You keep counsel that can tell you when your eloquence is outrunning your evidence. You keep rituals that return you to first principles before your calendar teaches you to forget them. You keep practices that make gratitude practical. Tips given, names remembered, floors swept, tools returned, apologies sized to harm and delivered before sunset. You keep wonder fed, so cynicism cannot counterfeit wisdom in your mouth. All of this keeps your power porous to grace. A porous power blesses by letting light through it. An arrogant power blocks light and demands to be seen. There will be hours that tempt you back towards spectacle. You will be invited to trade alignment for applause, to choose the hot take over the true one, the empire over the garden. Answer those hours with evidence of the fruit alignment has already grown. The rooms that end on time, the laughter that does not need a victim, the projects that function when you are elsewhere, the friends who trust your silence, the women whose shoulders drop 3 degrees in your presence because they know they will not be asked to spend their softness to stabilize your image. Choose fruit over fireworks. Fireworks wow the eye and leave the dark exactly as it was. Fruit feeds. Let your pride in this be the kind that stands rather than struts. Stand in the life you have aligned and let it speak. Stand in the standard you have made and let it hold. Stand among the chosen ones who are arranging their power the same way and let your harmonies teach a city a better song. When someone asks you to define alpha, do not define it at all. Demonstrate it. Lift what is heavy without narrating your heroics. Tell the truth at a temperature that can be held. Keep the promise that no one remembered to check on. Bless the hour you are in so the next hour is not taxed unfairly. If you keep doing this, arrogance will continue to look like a costume next to your skin, and alignment will continue to look like what it has always been. The quiet, dazzling strength of a man who is exactly where his soul he should be. Chosen one, there is a revolution that never raises its voice. It does not march through the street with symbols or decorate itself for photographs. It rewrites the rules of the room by remembering what human feels like and then refusing to negotiate it away. That revolution is your confidence. It is not a costume you wear when the lights are bright. It is the arrangement of your interior furniture after years of moving the heavy pieces into their honest places. You made agreements with yourself and then kept them when no one else would have known you forgot. You let your word grow roots in the soil of small hours where pride had nothing to win. The feminine senses this before language finds her. She feels the floor hold when you step on it, even if all you did was walk in and smile. Something in her ribs unclenches because something in your spirit is already settled. Quiet confidence begins where hunger stops, pretending to be leadership. You taught your appetites to shake hands with your values, and the handshake stuck. You learned to ask your ambition whether it could survive the daylight, and you were willing to let it shrink if honesty required it. You learned that your voice is strongest at the volume kindness can carry. That is why you do not hover above conversations, looking for the moment to pounce. You stand inside them, contributing proportion, making room where air has grown thin, accepting correction as if it were not an indictment but an inheritance. Your certainty does not announce itself, it arranges itself. It makes space where others can breathe. It lets a table become a future because it never asks the future to pay for today's performance. You did not wake up confident. You grew it in soil that looks like chores. You put your tools away where hands could find them tomorrow. You answered the message you wanted to avoid before avoidance turned it into a drama. You apologize without programming an applause break into the end of your sentence. You read the room and chose to be useful instead of impressive. You ended the meeting when clarity arrived rather than letting your eloquence audition for the minutes. You tipped as if gratitude deserved an invoice your heart could sign. None of this is glamorous. All of it is luminous. Your days now give off a soft light by which other people can see themselves with less distortion. That is the radical thing about quiet confidence. It does not burn, It warms. Confidence like this is allergic to spectacle, because spectacle cannot keep its promises through winter. Your steadiness does. It holds when the calendar compresses and the project goes sideways and the mood in the house forgets how to be gracious. In those hours, you do not pretend away your own humanity. You place it under governance. You count what is true before you narrate what is dramatic. You ask for 5 minutes when 5 minutes would save 5 days. You pause a decision not because you are afraid to make it, but because the better thing needs an extra hour to arrive. You can ignore a provocation without ignoring a person. You choose proportion when you could choose power. This is not passivity. It is mastery. The feminine calls it safety because her nervous system recognizes the difference between restraint and suppression. One is love's armor, the other is fear's gag. Your confidence is not intimidated by excellence in others. It is clarified by it. You do not dim another woman's radiance to keep the lighting flattering to you. You tilt the lamp and invite the room to see what you see.